Ken Carman joining us from Cleveland this morning. Ken, good morning.
It's such a beautiful day this morning in Cleveland weather-wise. Plenty of people riding around, the bicyclists are out, people are in their shorts and T-shirts enjoying things, but on the inside, a bubbling cauldron of rage, hate, and maybe yet despair. I wish I was talking to you under better terms, D.A. Do you want to talk Browns or do we got to talk Cavs?
Well, we can talk the Michael Kendrick story if you want to talk about the Browns. Why was he so violent against Ian Rappaport for reporting what exactly was going to happen?
You want to know why? I don't know if I can get this graphic with you, so you might have to hit a dump button.
Okay.
Have you ever been accused of being with somebody who you know you weren't with and you don't want people to believe you were with? Does not seem to be the same scenario?
Except that you ended up with that person by the end of the night.
Because he secretly likes it. Plus, they're the only ones who are going to offer him $3.5 million.
So you think that Michael Kendricks was embarrassed that the news got out about becoming a Brown, but by the end of the night he started looking better because the lights came on at 2 a.m. and they were the last girl standing?
I think, and I'm nervous about this because I hate how free agents see the Cleveland Browns because you know I love them and they just take our money and start music labels with them like Dwayne Bowe did, but I think that he might have been hoping that somebody else was coming to call, maybe the Vikings or somebody, and they weren't coming to call, and he went, all right, I'll take your money. Maybe he was hoping for one of those Bart Scott reprieves.
Ken Carman joining us this morning on the show. Have you seen the video yet of the uncut footage from game number 1 after J.R. Smith's blunder on the sidelines of LeBron learning from Ty Lue that they had a timeout left that they did not take and him looking like somebody had run over his dog?
Oh, God, how could I forget it? The frustration on his face, his reaction was, just of despair. Like, he threw himself into the hands of, if anybody was there, I thought he was going to start crying into somebody's face. And he didn't do it because there was no one there to really console him. It's just, I think you were seeing the frustrations of, I know that Jeff Green has helped a little bit, and a couple of games J.R. Smith has kind of done something, except for that moment in game 1, but he's carried them. He really has. Like, George Hill showed up at home in the last series, but he's really carried them, and that's got to be frustrating, that you had this chance, this golden opportunity to steal game 1, which would have changed the entire perspective of what we saw, and it boiled over there. And honestly, they looked coming out of that huddle the same way the fans felt, because I was shocked and dismayed, and they looked the same way. You knew they were going to lose.
Is there friction between LeBron and Ty Lue?
I don't know if there is. I think that that's how he is. I think that he's a very opinionated person. And I think that because we keep talking about his basketball IQ being so high, well, if his basketball IQ is that high, I don't think he's going to love every decision Ty Lue makes. So I think there's at times natural friction with them. But, I've talked to people who are on the inside there, and they still swear up and down. And it's surprising to us that if it weren't for Ty Lue taking on the hassles that we give the Cavaliers, that the media and fans do, that they wouldn't even have made the playoffs this year. That's not my quote. That is not my quote, but that is what we have been told by people.
That people within the Cavs organization feel so strongly about Ty Lue that this thing would have been out of the playoffs even with LeBron had Ty Lue not steered the ship. Because
he was the one that through all the changes, he was the one kind of holding it together, being the glue to hold it together. I mean, good God, yet J.R. Smith, who for whatever reason people talked themselves into thinking he was going to have a sensational game 2. I couldn't. I can't do that. I can't trust him. I love J.R. Smith as a fan, but I can't trust him. And it got through soup at a coach. That's how bad it got. He threw a bowl of soup at a coach, like a grown man, a father of children, took soap and said to hell with it, or took soup and said to hell with you, and threw soup at a coach. And so that is supposed to be something that tells me they would have gotten over. There are people in that organization who are absolutely convinced that if it worked for Ty Lue and his mannerisms, or him being a former professional and knowing what it is and the way he handles them, that they would have fallen out of the Eastern Conference playoffs, let alone have gotten to the NBA Finals.
Ken Carman joins us this morning on the show. At the end of game number one, do you blame Ty Lue for not taking a timeout there and making sure either JR knew the score and situation, or as soon as that rebound came down, not being in the official's ear, or is that all on J.R. Smith?
Hell yeah, I blame him for doing that. He's the head coach of the basketball team, and I got to find somebody to blame other than LeBron James, don't I? And nobody wants to blame JR, so yeah, I have to blame them. I got to blame somebody for not taking a timeout.
How can you not blame JR? Why do people not want to blame JR?
I blame JR. I'm just saying fans don't want to blame JR, and I really don't want to blame JR because people still like JR. I like JR. If it weren't for because we actually talked about this morning. If he doesn't hit those shots, you go back to the third quarter, beginning of the second half. Game 7, 2016. Cavs trail by 7. He comes out, hits 2 quick threes, takes it down to 1, changes the entire perception of the second half. If he misses those shots, and Steph Curry does what Steph Curry usually does, which is come down and make you eat it, that's a 13-point deficit. Golden State's won now, 3 championships in a row going for 4. That's the difference. So, yeah, people love J.R. Smith here. And they don't want to blame him. But, yeah, it was stupid, and he should have known the score.
So, is there in Cleveland a sinking pit in the stomach that this is the end of LeBron 2.0, or is there still optimism that even if they lose this series, LeBron would come back to the Cavs?
Man, I tell you what, after seeing that video, what'd you think?
Well, I've thought all along he's going, and I don't say that easily because I know that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to swallow, but all this season, I just felt this was the last hurrah for LeBron.
I think he could stay because of the lifestyle, but you know what? I still wonder. He's going to be 34 next year. I still think he wants to be a number one. That's why I don't give a whole lot of credence to the Philadelphia thing. He's beaten Father Time this entire time. You're really going to sign up to just let Father Time take over? I think he still wants to be the number one. I think he wants to play with players he knows he can trust. So I don't know if I put a whole lot of credence to the Philadelphia thing. I think it's going to come down to lifestyle. I think he's still comfortable here. But, man, when they won that championship, DA, a lot changed. And I think a lot of people would look at him and go, all right, you won your championship. Now, we would argue about his legacy and whatever move he makes, whether or not that hurts or helps him. But I think for a lot of fans, they'd be like, all right, we're just going to start over again, and that's the end of it. And I gotta wonder, Dan Gilbert desperately, I think, wants to build a basketball team his way. And I don't know if that's a good idea, but I also know that I think he believes that there's a law of diminishing returns, and I don't know if he absolutely wants to put in everything with LeBron and go into Hawk yet again against a team like Golden State. Now, I would disagree with that because you're never going to find a player like LeBron ever again. You and I will both be dead and gone, but it's his team. He's going to do what he wants with it, and I still wonder if that's maybe one of his ideas he has floating around somewhere in the back of that head of his.
Ken Carman joins us from Cleveland, and of course you hear him here on CBS Sports Radio as well. In terms of financials, if LeBron did want to stay, could they find the money to get somebody else with him now that the Kyrie Irving salary is off the books?
Well, yeah, you're going to have to make trades, and you're going to have to trade for a team because Tristan's a couple of years into it. His salary feels like an albatross hanging around your neck. J.R. Smith's contract is a little bit workable, but you have to have some teams that are willing to eat it for a year or willing to pay a guy to go away. It's still going to be difficult, but you can find one more guy. 2, I'm not sure about. You'd probably have to trade straight up and then have to trade another player and make the salaries mix up if you were to take or match up, I should say, if you were going to take like a Michael Porter Jr. or something like that. But you got the 8th overall pick. I don't think anybody's going to get real hot and bothered over 8. If you had one of the top 3, I think some people might be willing to make that trade. Unless a guy like he were to do as great upside was able to fall to you. But again, I can't trade that guy until I know what LeBron's going to do.
Right. Best case scenario here with just a couple minutes left. Best case scenario is this series is not quite over because Cleveland still has 2 home games? Or do you feel like, no, the series is kind of over after what happened in game 1?
Oh, I don't think they'll win the series. I think they'll win on Wednesday. I think that the role players will play better. They've played well enough. They played well enough to stay in game 2. They probably would have lost naturally in game 2. They certainly played well enough to win game 1 and probably should have won game 1. And so I think they'll be at home. They'll be a desperate team. I think they'll win game 3, but, yeah, this series looks like hopefully we can push it to 6. We can get a good series out of it and see where that goes, but it could be 5. It really could be